Have you ever noticed that some of the longest conversations you have aren't actually with other people? They're with people who aren't even there. It usually happens when you're not really focused on anything in particular. Driving somewhere familiar, making coffee, folding laundry, or lying in bed when everything is quiet, but your mind isn't. And then, without really noticing, you're in the middle of a conversation, not an actual one, a rehearsed one. You're explaining something or defending yourself or saying something you wish you had said differently a few days ago. And for a moment, it doesn't feel imagined. It feels like it's happening. You can almost hear the reply before it arrives. Almost like your mind is running both sides of something that doesn't exist yet. And strangely, this is normal. Most people do it so often they stop noticing. We replay conversations that already happened. We rehearse ones that might happen. We imagine explanations, apologies, reactions. And sometimes, by the time the real moment arrives, it feels familiar, like it has already been lived once before. But real conversations rarely follow any of that. People don't stick to the version we prepared. They interrupt. They change direction. They say things we didn't expect. Sometimes the thing we prepared for never comes up at all. And we're left realizing we spent far more time rehearsing it than actually living it. There's also a specific kind of conversation most people know. The one that happens after something is already over. You leave a conversation and at first everything feels normal. Then, later, when your mind is somewhere else, it brings it back. And suddenly, you're there again. Except now it's different. Now you know exactly what you should have said. Now everything sounds clearer, more precise, more complete. But it wasn't like that in the moment. Real conversations are fast, slightly messy, always a bit incomplete. And afterward, the mind quietly edits them when no one is watching, rewriting small parts, replacing sentences, adding meaning that wasn't clear at the time. Sometimes a 5-minute moment ends up living in your head for days. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. Because something stayed unfinished or unclear. unresolved. And the mind doesn't like unfinished things, so it keeps returning. Then there are the conversations that haven't happened yet. A difficult message, a meeting, a phone call you've been avoiding. Before it even arrives, your mind starts rehearsing different versions, different outcomes, different reactions. You prepare for questions that may never be asked. You respond to situations that may never happen. And it can go on quietly in the background without you noticing until the real moment arrives and doesn't match any of it. Sometimes it resolves in seconds. Sometimes the issue never appears at all. And all that mental preparation suddenly has nowhere to land. There's a particular version of this almost everyone knows. The argument that never actually happens. Someone says something that stays with you. You don't respond in the moment, but later, when everything is quiet, your mind brings it back. And this time, you respond perfectly. Everything lands. Everything makes sense. In that version, you're understood immediately. But real arguments don't work like that. They're messy, they're emotional, unpredictable, and rarely complete in the way we imagine afterward. Maybe that's why imagined ones feel so satisfying. They're controlled. Nothing is interrupted. Nothing is misunderstood. And everything resolves cleanly. Most of these conversations don't happen when we're sitting still thinking about them. They happen when we're doing something simple. Walking, driving, waiting, cleaning. Moments where the body is busy but the mind is free. And more often than not, it fills that space with people, with conversations, with unfinished moments. Because so much of what we carry is connected to other people, even when they're not there. Sometimes it's worry, sometimes care, sometimes it's something we never fully processed, or something we never fully said. And there isn't just one reason. It changes depending on the moment. But underneath it, we want to be understood. And when that doesn't happen in real time, the mind continues working on it later, quietly, without asking permission. What's interesting is how often it repeats. The same conversations, returning in slightly different forms. The same people, the same situations, the same unfinished ideas. as if the mind keeps checking whether anything has changed, even when it already knows it probably hasn't. And after a while, there's something quietly tiring about it, just mentally heavy in a subtle way, carrying a conversation that only you are fully present for. Speaking, responding, replaying, adjusting, all inside your own head. And yet, even with all of that, there's something very human about it. These rehearsed conversations tend to point toward what matters, the things we keep returning to, usually aren't random. They're connected to something unresolved, or something important enough that it hasn't fully settled yet. And maybe the next time it happens, it doesn't need to be corrected, not stopped, just noticed, because it might be showing you something you haven't fully looked at yet. And chances are, before the day ends, it will happen again. You'll be doing something ordinary, not thinking much, and then suddenly you're in a conversation that isn't happening, and you catch it and realize how familiar it feels, because it's one of those quiet habits almost everyone shares, even if nobody talks about it. And somehow that makes it even more normal, even when it only exists in your mind. If you enjoy these quiet observations about everyday life and the small things we rarely notice, consider subscribing to Quiet Echoes. Until next time, thanks for listening.